Let's talk about something we almost never question: school. I mean, we see it as this bedrock of society, right? The great equalizer. But what if it isn't? Today, we are diving into a really radical idea, one that flips our whole concept of education completely upside down.
I mean, just let that sink in for a second. What if the very institution we built to help us learn is actually getting in the way? Now, this isn't just some random thought experiment. It is the central, explosive question from a philosopher who dared to challenge everything we thought we knew about education. So, meet Ivan Illich. Back in 1971, he just dropped an absolute bombshell of a book called Deschooling Society. And look, this wasn't some call for small reforms or a little more funding. No. This was a call to tear the whole system down. He argued that institutionalized school had become this destructive force in society. That is a massive claim. So what on earth was he thinking? Okay, so Illich's critique was deep. He wasn't just talking about boring classes or not-so-great teachers. He was arguing that the entire structure of compulsory schooling, the whole thing, was actually working against real learning. He saw a system that was creating problems way bigger than just its curriculum. This quote right here, wow, it just cuts right to the heart of his whole argument. Illich believes school basically trains us to value the packaging over the product. We end up chasing the grade, not the knowledge. We want the diploma, not the actual competence. In his view, school just becomes this big game of collecting credentials, and somewhere along the way, we completely forget how to learn for ourselves. So his critique really boils down to four huge ideas. First, what he called the hidden curriculum. All the unspoken lessons about fitting in and obeying authority instead of thinking for yourself. Second, credentialism. This is where diplomas become these social gatekeepers, making everyone dependent on the system. Third, he talked about the commodification of learning, basically turning knowledge into this scarce product that only schools can sell you. And finally, and this one is a real mindbender, counterproductivity. Illich argued that just like too many cars cause a traffic jam, too much schooling actually makes people less capable of learning on their own. All right, so if school is a problem, you can't just get rid of it and walk away, right? You'd have chaos. Well, Illich had a vision for what would come next. And it wasn't chaos at all. It was a completely new way of thinking about how we connect with knowledge and with each other. So what did that look like? The key to his entire solution is this fantastic word, conviviality. For Illich, a convivial society is one where people are in control of their own tools. And learning, he said, is the ultimate tool. It's about creating these learning environments that are decentralized, that are collaborative, and are totally driven by learners' own curiosity, not by some government-mandated curriculum. So that all sounds great, but how do you actually do that? How do you make learning convivial? Illich's answer was something he called learning webs. 4 different but interconnected networks that were designed to replace the rigid top-down structure of school. And this is where his vision gets really practical. First, you've got educational objects, just open access to things, tools, machines, labs, museums. Second, skill exchanges. Think of it like a marketplace where somebody who knows how to code can connect with someone who wants to learn. Third, peer matching, a system to find your study buddy for literally any topic you can imagine. And finally, a directory of educators at large. Mentors and experts you could just consult on your own terms. The whole goal is to connect people directly to resources, to skills, to peers, to mentors, with no institution as a middleman. Now, as you can probably imagine, an idea this out there faced, and, still faces, a ton of pushback. I mean, getting rid of a system that provides childcare, socialization, a clear path to a job, that's a huge deal. The criticisms are just as important to understand as the vision itself. So on one side, supporters say, hey, this frees the learner, it democratizes knowledge. But the critics bring up some really serious questions, like who's watching the kids if they're not in school? And could a system like this actually make inequality worse, only helping families who already have resources? What about accountability? Without a standard curriculum, how do we make sure every kid learns the basics? These are really tough questions, and there are no easy answers. For decades, Illich's ideas were mostly seen as this fringe utopian fantasy. But what's so fascinating is how more than 50 years later, our technology and our culture might actually be starting to catch up to his vision, whether we meant to or not. Seriously, think about it. Massive open online courses, or MOOCs, they give you access to university-level classes, a lot of them for free. YouTube, Skillshare, these are gigantic decentralized skill exchanges. The homeschooling and especially the unschooling movements, they are the living embodiment of his philosophy. We have endless libraries of open educational resources and countless online groups for peer matching. In a weird way, fragments of Illich's learning webs have just popped up all around us.
And his book is still this cornerstone for alternative education movements all over the world. So while we obviously haven't deschooled society the way he imagined, his critique kicked off this incredibly important ongoing conversation about what education is even for, and whether the institutions we've built are really the best way to do it.
And all of that leaves us with this one big question. Today, we have the technology to build the learning webs that Illich could only dream about. We have literally infinite information right at our fingertips. But are we actually using these incredible tools to create that true, autonomous, convivial learning he talked about? Or are we just building a shinier, more high-tech version of the same old system? Really makes you wonder, doesn't it?